Okay. Go ahead, but I have to start because we're televised. Okay. I didn't know that.
So when you mention that,
Still gonna have questions answered. Okay, we're gonna get started again. The asset management policy, CAO. Do you need, because I have it in front of me, we had an awful lot of paperwork here. Go ahead, CAO.
So thank you, Your Worship. So at our last meeting, we talked about the asset management and how we were getting involved in a program that was involved, I think, as many as 10 municipalities, learning to do sophisticated asset management as a team at the town of Yarmouth. And one of the early steps in that process is to draft an asset management policy for the town. So what the policy is intended to do is to say publicly as a council that you support this approach to managing our infrastructure. And so it is a kind of a high level statement of intent, and it talks about 5 principles: service delivery to customers, holistic approach, long-term sustainability and resilience, fiscal responsibility, and continuous improvement. And so with those 5 principles in hand and some roles and responsibilities laid out for Town Council, the CAO, departments, heads, and staff, we would ask your consideration of adoption of that policy, which kind of provides the overarching statement of intent that the staff will work under. And so there will be many, many more documents and I guess tools that we'll be bringing forward to council for your consideration. One of the next steps that we will be doing if we adopt the policy is we'll get into a real what I think is going to be an interesting discussion about levels of service. What are the service standards, expectations of council? And so I'm looking forward to the work with council because we're doing the work in-house as staff, and it's led to some really good discussions about the services we provide to the public through our infrastructure and exactly sort of where we think the bar is in terms of service levels. But ultimately, those will be your choices, and look forward to working with you on that. So tonight, Your Worship, it's just about adopting this high-level overarching statement of intent, and it is a policy. If we find down the road that there's something in this policy that we find difficult to continue with in any way, a policy can be amended by council with 7 days' notice. So it isn't a document that you're tied to forever and a day without amendment. It's fairly easy, and it should be considered a living document as we get more into the asset management process and you feel more comfortable with what it is that we're doing. Come back to the policy and say, does this still fit? Does this still meet our intent? For your consideration.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor MacLeod.
Thank you, Jeff. You've explained that very well. I've read it a couple of times. I'd love to be able to sit with staff and discuss it with you when the time comes, but I know that as a volunteer, my role is out here, and so I'm prepared to recommend the adoption of the draft policy at this meeting.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Hood?
Where do we get this template?
Go ahead, CAO.
So, Your Worship, I mentioned we're in I guess, a learning cohort with as many as 10 other municipalities who are working through, I guess, an asset management process. And so there are several all the members of our senior team are involved in it because the work touches everybody, and we're taking that sort of holistic approach. And the consultants that are working or facilitating the learning had some different templates for us to consider, and when we worked through the workshop, we, meaning myself and the senior staff, picked the template that you see before you and picked the words that we thought might best reflect where we are. So that's where it came from.
So here's my concern. Various levels of government are imposing ever more increasing standards and obligations on the part of municipal units. The difficulty is we adopt these things, like you're proposing to do tonight, and then it becomes difficult to keep up with them and manage them. I'll give you a couple examples. I know right now we have a number of agreements in place that require annual meetings, regular follow-ups, that kind of thing. They don't happen. I'll give an example. There's an agreement between the town of Yarmouth and the Acadiaman First Nation in regards to the water and sewage systems that we apply. That agreement requires us to have a meeting, mandates that there be a meeting with the band every year to annually review the contract and set rates. It's one that really gives the town a lot of authority over the operation of the water utility on the reserve. It's not followed up. To my knowledge, it hasn't been followed up in years. I attempted to follow it up. About a year ago, I wrote officially to the band. But at the staff level, it doesn't happen, okay? You know, and who are you? The chair, you know, and this and that. But I was aware of that, and so we're trying to, so I've settled into the idea with that one that, you know, we have to understand that the priorities of the band are different than ours, and their pace of doing things is different than the colonials like us think, all right? So I'm mindful of that. But we have a number of other agreements. The dispatcher's agreement would be another example. We settled on an agreement 20, 25 years ago on an amount of money. $28,000 a year, I think. What was it? $1,200 per department for dispatch services to be paid to the town. We never went back to the table and changed it. We never increased it. Where did we end up? We ended up in the dung heap, or no, dung storm. There, that's the word. I'm trying to be polite now.
You're doing
that we
well.
ended up into. D-U-N-G, storm, S-T-O-R-M. Another four-letter word, but I won't use it. We have a number of situations like that, and we'll go ahead and do all the goody two-shoot things at some level of government's telling we have to do. And the question is, do we have the staff and the money to pay the staff to keep up with all this stuff? I'll make those comments before I vote yay on the motion, just to keep a whip on our back a little bit. So we have more than, there are other, like, my water utility is supposed to have regular meetings of the Lake George Committee. We try to do it, and when we don't do it, we get tickets. Department of Environment, et cetera, et cetera. So let's put the whip on our back. Question, Your Worship?
Questions called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Good stuff. Okay, reports. Second now, because we got a pile here. I've got asset management, that's the last thing I had. Yep. Okay, so, just hang on a second. It is, I don't have anything here, but I'm sure it's here, but it's. Okay, so Deputy, you're good to go for committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that Council appoints Councillor Cleveland to the Mariner Centre Board, fill in the seat on the board created by the amended intermunicipal agreement.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Your worship, I move that council denies the request from the municipality of Yarmouth to absorb the sewer charges for the Mariner Centre associated with the 2018 drought. Council denies the request from the municipality of Yarmouth to absorb the sewer charges for the Mariner Centre should be associated costs with the 2018 drought.
Yep.
I think we got to put, maybe Lindsay put costs in there. I think I'll make that a change. Associated with.
Go ahead, Councillor Hood.
I think our municipal colleagues need to get their head around the fact that every citizen of this town that waters their lawn or otherwise uses water at their taps that doesn't go into the sewer is paying sewer charges for that water regardless. And I think that we operate a water utility and we have the capacity to dispense water for a fee set by the Union and the Utility and Review Board, and that's how it should be done. And we should not sanction the subsidy of delivery of water to municipal residents who do not pay taxes in town and do not pay water or sewer rates. Very simply put. And I suspect that our colleagues up the street were really not in tune with that. But
I think, don't turn your light out, but I think folks don't understand as well that every ounce of water that goes through our pipes and our $25 million facility that the town taxpayers pay for, every drop, as I understand it, has to be accounted for. So if we ever needed to increase the cost of water or sewer, we couldn't, the UARB may say, no, you haven't even accounted for what you have.
Well,
so
we
we
do-
can't just give away, water. It's not that we
correct
don't.
about that. We have fish plants that operate on the waterfront that try to conserve water and use as little water as possible. They need a lot. There are two of our biggest customers in town. And when they use water that doesn't go into the sewer and they use a lot of it, they're paying the sewage charges, to some extent anyway. But we have, there's any number of examples around town of that. It's kind of, it's not like we don't have the water to provide to the people who are short of water. We do. But we had situations this summer where volunteer fire departments in the municipality were going out hooking up to our firefighting hydrants and taking the water off and delivering it to people to fill their wells. And we're paying for it.
So that is, again, lost water
Yes.
that we can't account for.
It goes through our system, and when it goes
Yeah.
through, even when we do flushing, we don't buy it from ourselves, but we have to account for that water. And here's the important thing. You have to understand that the Federal Department of Environment and the Provincial Department of Environment, the province mandates how much water we can take out of the lake and ensures that we put enough water over the dam to keep the pollywogs alive, for God's sake. I mean, we can't just willy-nilly give water away. We have to account for it. The ORB would pull us up on our petards if we didn't.
Correct.
So I'm supporting the motion.
Okay. Call for the question.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
Thank you, Your
Motion
worship.
carried.
I move that council eliminate yard sale signs altogether through education and the opportunity to promote on the town website and social media and defer consideration of a bylaw at this time. It's awful wordy, but
No, it's good wording. It's just, good luck with that. Question, call for the question.
question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Good for you, Wade. Okay, Deputy?
Your
Oh,
worship.
motion carried.
Your worship, I move that council defers the request to expand the food bank building to the next committee of the whole meeting to receive the drawings and any other available information.
Before the question, do we know what we're after? I just want to make sure that we know as a council what we are asking staff to do. Like, are you good with that?
I don't know if we know what we're after. I think we want to know what they're after. Right? Let those guys present something to us
Okay.
instead of the other way around. Well, I don't think I have any preconceived
No.
ideas or notions about.
But we had thought, maybe that just isn't the right location, but that's a different
Yeah.
kettle of fish. Okay, I'll call for the question
Question.
then. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Your worship, I move that staff proceed with the Glebe Street parking lot redesign based on option 2 with the semicircular driveway on the north end of the parking lot.
Okay. So do we have an issue with that? Okay, Councilor McLeod first.
Frost Park is a historic site. I don't think that we can impose on that site. So in speaking briefly with our engineer, Charles Hartland, he, shortly after the last meeting, committee of the whole meeting, he indicated that he was going to challenge the engineering firm to redesign, and whether it's happened yet or not, I suspect it has not. And I'll take more discussion from our CAO, but at this point, I can't support that motion. I would be voting against it.
Yeah, I think we're probably all on board with that because it is. Yes, okay, CAO?
Yeah, so it is a municipal registered heritage property, and we did apply a few years ago to have it designated as a provincial registered heritage property. I've asked staff to confirm that it was in fact designated by the province. I haven't seen the documentation, but in any case, it is a heritage property, and there is a process for making any sort of encroachment like that. So it does certainly complicate and extend the project if we have to go through the minister to allow that encroachment. So, when we found that out, we as staff became quite concerned about what that reality does to that particular design option. So, if you are not going to approve the motion, then could you also consider a motion to bring back the options to the next committee of the whole meeting?
Absolutely.
You want me to withdraw that motion, or we vote against it
Well,
and then do the other one?
we'll probably vote against it. No one
No
seconded
second?
that?
Okay.
Okay, so if we're good, Mr. Solicitor?
You're good?
We can just drop it,
Yeah.
okay?
I'll make a motion, Your Worship. We ask the engineer to come back with the other options for the Glebe Street parking lot project for the next committee of the whole.
Okay, moved and seconded, any discussion? Questions called, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary? Motion carried.
Your Worship, I move the council refer Haley Road sidewalk budget to capital budget process.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Did you hear that, Martha?
Martha's got it.
I hope you guys charge the developer in future, but anyway, yeah.
And you know what else you know what word I don't like in there? I
What?
have to say, I don't like sidewalk.
Trail,
So I have
yeah.
So I have a question there. Are we changing that to trail or active transportation? What do you call it? It can't just, okay, active transportation trail. It's right, we aren't in the business in this town anymore of putting in sidewalks. We're putting in active transportation trails so that folks with scooters and bicycles and everything else can access it. The sidewalk is a,
As long as it gets them from one sidewalk to another.
absolutely.
One trail to another.
One trail to the other.
Okay.
Okay, so we need a motion to amend? Greg?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Your Worship, I'll make a motion that council refer the Haley Road active transportation trail budget to the capital budget process.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Your worship, I move that council offer to collaborate with Halifax Regional Municipality in drafting and consideration of a bylaw prohibiting single-use plastic bags.
Where are they on that, do you know? Have you heard anything lately? Yeah, we're all hungry, Councillor. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
2 nays.
Okay, 2 nays.
Aye.
Motion carried. Go ahead, Deputy.
Your worship, I move that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Town Council donate $500 to the Hospital Foundation Radiothon, and we already did that, I
Yeah,
guess.
please say yes, because I already wrote the check.
Yeah. Yeah, got credit for it.
You promised it, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so moved. Who seconded that?
I'll second it
Don?
on the basis that the motion reads that we move to pay $500 to honor commitment date.
Okay.
I'm
You
good
okay
with
with
that.
that,
Yeah.
solicitor?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, so we are on February 11th. Committee of the
Your
Whole.
worship,
Yes, sir.
I move that the Town of Yarmouth support the formation of an intermunicipal steering committee for the purpose of moving forward with an expansion to Mariner Center with the following initial mandates. In anticipation of an impending intake of applications under the Federal Provincial Infrastructure Program, prepare an application for federal and provincial funding prior to June 30th, 2019, conditional upon the following deliverables being completed under the direction of the Intermunicipal Steering Committee. A would be an operational agreement be struck with the partners, including but not limited to the municipalities of the District of Yarmouth and the municipality of the District of Argyll. B, a capital and ownership agreement be struck with the partners, including but not limited to the municipalities of the District of Yarmouth and the municipality of the District of Argyll. C, that the municipal funding of operations and capital contributions between municipal partners be based on a formula which includes variables including but not limited to population and uniform assessment. Second, third, and fourth. And maybe should I do, Jeff, do I need the other?
Yes.
Yeah. Also, your worship, included in this motion is the vision and mandate work as suggested in the DMA consulting reports, which has begun by the municipal leadership of the municipalities of the District of Yarmouth, the municipality of the District of Argyll, and the Town of Yarmouth be completed prior to October the 1st, 2019, and that a comprehensive engagement and critical review of the elements of the expansion identified in the DMA consulting reports be undertaken to inform the expansion program.
Thank you, Deputy. Okay. Counselor.
It's just a moment where I can have a few words or two.
Did somebody second? Actually, I heard everybody second
think
it,
you-
but. Okay, second, third, and fourth. Okay, so yes, it's been seconded. So go ahead, Councillor McLeod.
When I heard about this, the same as the rest of us did last Friday lunchtime, several thoughts came to mind. Right away, obviously, one of surprise, and secondly, oh my gosh, what's happening with our Arts and Culture Centre? But after just a few seconds, a few minutes, I had realized that I was going to be supportive of this project. Thinking about the arts and culture for a moment, I met with Mitch Bonner and our CAO met with me for the last, I met with him 7 times over a period of months, the last meeting being at near the Committee of the Whole in November, and we were not able to gather to convince him and the board and the ARC membership to work with the town in the design and the development of our Arts and Culture Centre. So I felt real bad about that. My whole life, I've been a member of one of the health professions, and my contributions outside of the health have been in the area of the arts and culture for the most part. So I do feel bad about that. It's tough because there is a silent majority of people out there in the arts and the culture who are disappointed or could be disappointed, but I'm not giving up. I'll come back and do it in 2020 or 2024, whenever we get going again. It includes, the vision includes the YMCA and the curling club. Currently, I've grown up with the Y, go back all the way to Y Camp in the early 1950s, and I think of the YMCA, I think of the YMCA spirit, mind, and body. I think currently the brand of our YMCA, I think of the word YMCA, and I don't think the brand is strong as it used to be. I'm a member of the board. I care very deeply about the activity of the Y, and I just feel that we need to try harder down there at the Y, and I've made an interesting challenge to them, and Greg is also, our solicitor is also a member of the board, and I don't think it's been actively received yet, and I feel bad about that. We need to, if and when this project comes to fruition, we have 1,100 or so members of the YMCA. I feel the moment that at the current state, as I see it, if we were to move the activity of the Y to our Mariner Center, that the spirit, mind, and body aspect of the YMCA would be lost, and that the 1,100 members would drop down to probably 750, 800 members. Not everybody is going to get out there. And it would take possibly 5 years to increase it to approaching 2,000 members. And the other aspect of that, the project is envisioned to cost upwards between 30 and 35 million. This is just a thought that I've had quite recently. Maybe we could put a proper swimming pool located at the current site of the Mariner Center and renovate the existing site on Main Street. This current council and the previous two councils have worked so hard to achieve what we have downtown Yarmouth now, especially with the facade program. This makes the work in our downtown that much more challenging when we have another building to deal with. Having said this, I said earlier, if I didn't say earlier, I'm supporting the project enthusiastically, and I'll say it again at this point, that I'm still supporting the project enthusiastically, but I still think of the surprise last Friday. So I'm hoping that the members of the board of the Mariner Center will lead and start the ball rolling with a major contribution from the individuals of the members of the board. If they care deeply enough about the project, it's one thing to get 40% from the federal and 30% or whatever it might be, and then us for the balance, the municipal units. And then there's a sizable community that we have in the 3 counties, or the 3 units, I mean, and we need everyone to be on the same page. It's like one for all and all for one. Now, Jeff has an arrangement, and we're supporting his arrangement, I am, that those are going to be new guidelines reflective of our activity of the population base and the assessment. And there may be other variables that you're working on, Jeff, that I'm not aware of right now. But gone are the days in which it can be almost like 50% Yarmouth and 50% for the other two units, or a third, a third, a third. Can't be that way. And so the job of the Mariners Board or the group that's promoting this, they need to speak to the other two units. They need to convince the other two units to support us under the conditions that we're going to approve tonight. I think of the curling club. And again, I go back to curling, and I was an active curler in high school. I can remember finishing second in the province of Nova Scotia in 1956 or 7. And I just feel that when you're members of a board, you don't go to be an active member of a board just to say you're on a board. You go there to contribute the strength that you bring to the board. So we have supported, and I think in our capital budget, an amount of money. And similarly, reminds me now, we have supported the Mariner Centre Board presented 5 items for discussion related to capital that we approved, and the other 2 units did not approve last year. And then finally, and thank you for the time again, finally, if it does come to fruition, we will have to have an active board who care deeply about the activity of the recreation department, including the YMCA, to care deeply about maintaining, or I think of operational deficit. I know from looking around the province that operational deficits, they're in the hundreds of thousands. Now, I know currently...
They're in the millions.
I wasn't going to get that far.
No, they are.
I know they're that high.
1.2 million.
But, you know, so if the YMCA has a deficit of, say, 100,000, I think it's less this year. If the board, Mariners Centre, has a deficit of 250, and we have a recreation budget of 662,000, I know it's important to fund these objects, these things, but I just need to know that it can control costs and be very aggressive about the operation. I don't want to leave, as a councillor, if I was out there as a citizen, I don't want to leave a legacy of hundreds of thousands of dollars more than what we're currently paying now. Sorry, I'm all set. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Can I have your light? Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Hood.
I echo every word that Councillor MacLeod said. He said it better than I could say it on that part. I'll add this to it. This came before us as a big surprise, and I regret very strongly that we're in this position at this time without having adequately addressed the issue of the Arts and Cultural Center. We had many partners who met with us and shared with us their thoughts and dreams for that facility. We have spent a good portion of the town's coin. We have finished the assembly of the land. We've bought and assembled the land, including a transcontinental building that was envisioned. We are ready to go with the development of the project. Anyone with any imagination or common sense knows that we're at a point, as Councillor MacLeod has stated, and that we don't have a willing partner on the part of the current YARC. Some of us, at least me, thought that if we took the bull by the horns in the way we did, that would be sufficient to show and to encourage the membership of the Arc to join with us. They haven't done that. So we need to engage with our people very quickly and share with them where we are and why we are changing our priorities, because that is what we're doing. I think I have, as a counselor, have for some months realized that we're stymied. We can't realistically go on a fundraising program to fund the Arts Center. So we need to come together as a council and say, okay, where are we? And make sure we communicate that fairly to the people that whose expectations we raised and who responded to that. So for those of us like myself and Jim who are downtown people, who are fighting to keep a downtown core, who come from families that lived and worked and did business in the downtown, it's tough to see these projects come clicking together head to head as they are. So Friday, we were advised that our federal partners and our provincial partners, or representatives, I should say, have indicated that there are federal programs aligning that could again create an opportunity to do the Mariner Center project. We'll see, I guess, on that one. But that is what's prompted the reaction that we are dealing with. It has been the implied, I won't say promise, but the implied suggestion on their part, that major funding would be available for that kind of a project. So we got everything to gain and nothing to lose, some would say. Well, we do have something to lose. We have to lose a YMCA whose brand is faded because it's administered from another town and other reasons. Yet it's been on Main Street in Yarmouth since the 1850s, the second oldest YMCA. I don't know if it's North America or Canada or something like that. And that isn't just the only reason why you try to keep something down there. The building was built in 1984. It needs some repairs, but it's a solid building and it's capable of being modernized and rejuvenated. It's very busy down there at times. I was in the other night when Kids Act were in there. Well, I don't know how many. The rooms are full. Parents are standing there watching. They should have a viewing area to watch their kids, but they don't. They have a little window and they have to crowd around and all that. I don't want to tie everybody up. If this plants the seed to drive us towards a system of regional government here where the taxes that are raised in what is now 3 municipal units is raised in 1, and we get better bang for our bucks when we spend all of our people's money here, if this could be a seed to do what we do with Yarmouth County Solid Waste Park, on which board the mayor and I sit. This board works very well. It's 3 municipalities working together to solve what is obviously a regional problem. It's got money in the bank. Where's that money come from? Well, it comes from the user fees. Now, last year, the residential tipping fees paid by the $356,000, $31,000 a month just for residential tipping fees, $392,000 for so on, so on. Total revenues, $1,370,000. Total expenditures are less than that. That's how you run something. You run something so that it pays the bills as they go. And we're going into this Mariner Center project with a debt, as we established at another meeting, that's gone from $0 to $240,000 in 10 years. And our municipal partners have to realize that when you have the major tenant, one of the major tenants is minor hockey. It's not the minor hockey that I served on the board where we had 600 kids. It's 150 odd from Argyle and 140 odd from the county and 40 odd from the town. Hello, folks. It's time for our municipal partners to step up to the plate and be honest with us, be honest with themselves about the obligations they have on all of these different municipally shared services. I gotta shut up. This is a tough one because it's certainly, I'm gonna be voting for it, and I'm taking my cue from Jim on it. I might have voted another way without that. Thank you.
CAO or Don Barry?
I
Councillor
guess
Barry?
I would feel that it would be a no-brainer not to support the Mariner Centre at this particular time, but as a kid growing up in the south end of Yarmouth, where memberships were given to poor kids and families that could walk that distance and still appreciate that distance, and I know the YMCA still supports kids of poor families or kids of middle class that could not even afford this particular building, gives me a heavy heart. And sometimes even walking from grade 11 and 12, which I couldn't skate for the Dickens, walking from South End with my bag on my back to make it to the hockey rink because they wanted to push us into at least learning how to skate properly, which I never really developed well. It really bothers me that I'm looking into the future and I'm seeing a building or I'm seeing a facility where those type of families or those type of community members don't get an opportunity to walk that distance. Lots of people that live in town because of transportation costs and all that particular stuff that they have. Funding, amount of money where they spend towards food and family takes a lot of their budget already. And if we look at the Y and we see that there has to be a strong effort to say that we need to make an effort to save and promote and use every effort possible to have a facility like the Y to continue for those reasons alone. I'm not sure. We're listening to Constable Hood's amount of students that are using the Mariner Centre and the dropping of our enrollment in Yarmouth town itself has bothered me from my years as an educator. We're down to 6,500 people, which I remember around shortly of 10,000 people that I remember as how do we bring those people back? How do we make this particular area grow? Which would support a local YMCA. The numbers alone would support that. But it really gives me a heavy heart of what I see in the future. And I see a building that's been there for many years, and it seems to be, I see it going down and down and down, and where it can't survive anymore. And it really, really bothers me. So I just want to bring that to the group's attention that, yes, I support it, but I support the new initiatives from the government. And we got to take all those advantage by saving our taxpayers some money. And I think this is the only way to do it. But it still hurts knowing that it seems like the way of the YMCA seems to be going downwards and downwards and downwards where they can't survive any longer. And now we close the building and we have another building on the taxpayers that we can't unload or doesn't serve the purpose of our youth. And today's the most important thing that everybody preaches about is making sure that we include our youth. Our youth are the future of tomorrow. So if we're going to use we need a facility that encourages youth to build a solid body physically and mentally, and that we make every advantage to keep those kind of facilities running. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor. CAO?
So, Your Worship, I just wanted to make a couple of comments, and they came to mind when Councillor MacLeod was speaking, and particularly about the infrastructure improvements that we approved in this current fiscal year's capital budget. And so I just want to be clear that we approved the 5 projects, but we are one of 2 partners in the facility. The other partner did not approve all 5 projects. So we took the short list that we both agreed on, and we asked the municipality of Argyle if they would participate for a 1/3 share on that short list. And the municipality of Argyle contributed exactly what they were asked for. So I just want to be clear that they didn't shorten the list at all. They contributed exactly what they were asked for. And we didn't shorten the list. We approved everything. And so the other point is that I wanted to share is that if any of you had the chance to watch the municipality of Argyle's council meeting this week, it was streamed on Facebook, and you can watch it again. But they had a good discussion about this project, and they have agreed to participate in the steering committee based on the request for decision, even before we had, and we still haven't yet voted on this motion. But that is a good sign of intermunicipal support for the project, and I just wanted to share that in case you hadn't seen it. You know, they've agreed to come to the table, and they understand what that means in terms of potential capital and operating, but they're going to come to the table and talk about it.
Yeah, very good. So I just want to speak to a couple things very quickly to Councillor MacLeod's surprise and Councillor Hood. Everybody was surprised when I called the meeting. And just so that we all understand what happened, it was very much by accident. I had a couple gentlemen come into the office and mention to me that they were just in passing speaking with our MP and our MLA, and that there seemed to be a revenue stream there if we were willing to put this back on the table. So I'm going to go over here and just... we have never taken it off the table. And I don't think that's clear to the public. We never took the Mariner Center off of the priority list. It's always been there. We heard from another partner that you know, operational deficits were going to be a big issue. And when we look throughout the province at what these places cost to run, especially with the pool, because that's the big cost, you're looking at between 800,000 and 1.2 million per year. So we have to understand, and I think that is why that is captured in this motion, because it's tremendously important. I think the easy piece, shouldn't say easy, especially when not with our CFO in the room, but the easy piece will be getting it built. It's every year, as Councillor MacLeod said, somebody has to pay to make sure that that place stays up and running. This is not build it and then just let it go. We're talking a lot of money every single year, and it's been on council's list to the tune of, correct me CAO if I'm wrong, but we've had a placeholder for the 2.5 million in our budget. I think we put pool by that, or some type of a pool system that we put by that, because we understand that to the community the pool is perhaps number one. It's a big draw. It's tremendously important that we have that, and that we have it in the right format where we can bring people in for sport tourism, and make sure that we have proper swim meets. So I just want to make that very, very clear. It's never gone off of the town of Yarmouth's radar, but the town of Yarmouth also understands financially to build it. We are more than willing to pay our fair share, which is round about 26%. It doesn't matter if you look at population. We have 26% of the population of Yarmouth County. We have 26% when you look at uniform assessment, because a lot of folks have said to me, just in conversation, but you have all the businesses. Our assessment includes the businesses and it includes the home, just like it would in any other municipal unit, and the town of Yarmouth has 26% of that. I did have some folks come to me and say, well, why don't you fund it based on the ability to pay, so the median household income? And I said, absolutely, we jump on that in a flash, because in the town of Yarmouth, our median household income is here, in Modi it's here, in Argyle it's here. So that's really not an option. The other thing was usage, and I believe Councillor Hood put some of those numbers together, and if I give it to you in percentages, when we look at minor hockey, which is what basically pays the bills at the Mariner Centre, we have 14% of the users, 14%, come from town. 41 and 43 from the other two municipalities. It's a very, very small portion. And so we're more than glad for our taxpayers to pay our share. I think when the CAO put this together, and the number, not that anybody's going to pay out of their pocket $1 a day for a year, but if our taxpayers are each paying $1, then it's fair that every taxpayer pays $1. It just makes everything even across the board. So to go back to the surprise meeting, basically what happened is I heard that rumor, and the first thing I would do as the mayor, or I think anybody would do, is I would make a quick phone call to my MLA, and I scooted next door to the MP, and I just basically asked, is that true? The CAO actually stopped into the MP's office with me, and there are never any promises, but the revenue streams are there. And the very strong feeling was that everything has to line up, and the stars right now are I don't know if they're going to be any more aligned than they are right now, and we take advantage of the funds that are there. We put the Mariner Centre, we just shift it, and if we can get this done, then we get it done. And our portion is on the table. So the motion this evening, to be clear again, the motion is simply for us all to get together, because the first thing I do, and actually the deputy was in the office when Jeff and I walked back in, and I didn't even talk. I said, I can't talk. I need to go send a note to the wardens and the CAOs of the other units as soon as I understood that may be a go. So I wasn't meeting anyone on my own. I wasn't doing anything like that. I was simply checking out, is the rumor true? And then my next step immediately was to say to the other units, let's sit down and get together. And I'll tell you why, because I know that Modi has talked. I know the warden mentioned it at the State of the Region. He said the Mariner Centre expansion is in our priorities. So this is a good thing. It aligns. And I know, how Argyle feels about that as well. They got a lot of hockey players down there too. They're a sports-minded community. So that's basically what happened there. I jotted down some notes, but I think I basically covered everything. So I just wanted to thank everybody for sharing, and I just wanted to straighten out, because sometimes, rumors happen, and how did we get to this place? And we're not anywhere. We are sitting here tonight saying, are we going to, basically tomorrow, am I going to sign a letter to ask our other units, are we ready to sit at the table and figure out how we can make this happen? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I swore I was never going to say anything, but everybody else has talked, so what the hell? So,
be nice.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself in any more
This
trouble.
has never been not on my priority list.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. My first priority was an arts center in some way, shape, or form in some location in the downtown. When I was first elected, that's as far as I got. Didn't care where it was, as long as it got built. I believed that it was a necessary thing. I'm going to be honest when I tell you that I'm sick of banging my head against a wall, because that's what I feel like I'm doing. And it's been a while now, probably since about November, maybe a little longer than that I've decided that's enough. It's time to move on. And I'm prepared to move on. Do we have problems when it comes to filling the downtown? Is that going to be an issue? Probably. But this is a conversation that needs to be had, and it needs to be had now. Okay, I'm done. That's a lot shorter than everybody else.
So I'm going to say one more thing that I had written in the corner here, the Art Center. I didn't even mention it. Because I constantly hear about, who the Art Center is for. And I'll tell you who the Art Center is for. The Art Center is for, I'm going to put it like this. A lot of people, a lot of us, my age, and Jim's age, although there's about 106 years difference. No, I'm just kidding, Jim. When we went through school, if you were involved in sports and on sports teams, and you were over here, you were over here if you were artistic. That's changing. But for me, to even remotely, I cannot wrap my head around why folks would not understand the tremendous importance of all those youth that dance, that make music, the autism programs that are artistic for children, that help them grow. There's a list 10 miles long, and there are a lot of people that need that to happen. And folks will say, well, we already have them scattered throughout. We do. We also have 2 ice arenas. So I will say this in response to what Councillor Hood said, because he's right. The Art Center is ready to go. We've lined up the properties. We've done our homework. Everything's ready to go, except that revenue stream. So we take the Mariner Center, because it's there. We give it everything we've got. We get that done. And by no means are we ignoring the arts, because at this table, I think that's important to every single one of us, because I've heard it over and over and over again. And you're right, beat your head against the wall. And I'm ready to keep beating my head, but you can't beat your head if the funding isn't there. So we do this, understanding that the arts project it's ready to go when that stream opens up, and we're good to go. So nothing is getting cut.
We've had so much discussion, Your Worship. What's the proper motion that Jeff expects of us?
Okay, so number 1, Phil made the motion, and it's been seconded. Okay? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Do we need a motion to do a letter, or does this encompass? Okay, we're going to do that letter, and I will send that out tomorrow to our partners, and hopefully we can sit at the table together and get this moving. And time's of the essence, by the way. That's why those funding streams don't stay open forever. Okay? There's an agenda in here somewhere.
Planning advisory.
Go ahead, Councillor MacLeod.
2 items, Your Worship. I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend our strategy and land use bylaw to permit recreational cannabis industry as a cultivation and processing of agricultural products use in our C1-4 and M-1 industrial zones as outlined in our planner's report. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Second item, Your Worship. I move to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider, and if deemed advisable, amend our land use bylaw to exempt fishery and/or marine-related industrial uses from the requirement that there is at least 1 building containing sewer and water services on the same lot using option 1 as outlined in our planner's report.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? That's the one we took? No. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay. And this one was, yeah, that first one, Doris, we took, the waterfront came out just. We did. I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
I didn't hear him say waterfront,
Yeah.
except for the water.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Did we vote on, we voted on that, and Lindsay, you have Councillor Hood's. Okay. Reports for information. Any questions for committee chairs? Wade, we doing okay with Communities in Bloom?
We are, yeah.
Excellent.
I'll have a longer report next time.
Yep, good. Yeah, good. Whatever you need, let us know.
Yep.
I'm actually, speaking of big conferences, I'm speaking at the Sports Tourism National Conference in Ottawa next month. And I believe Yasta's coming as well, speaking on a mayor's panel from across the country. So I'm going to represent the Atlantic provinces. So that's good. That's we'll learn a lot there. Any other questions for committee chairs, folks? We're good? Okay, additions. Councillor MacLeod?
Just let me get organized here. I read the Globe and Mail on a regular daily basis, and this article I read, which I couldn't paste and copy it like I wanted to, but today's February the 14th, it's Valentine's Day, and one of the articles is, and I think some of the councillors may smile a little bit, marriage is like a compost heap. Now, while
I hope Dawn's not watching. I hope your wife isn't watching.
I just want to find the part of the article that I want. Well, the pause was on purpose, by the way, so because we get some smiles here. So,
Oh, gosh.
so picture the father of a bride, Tina, a few years ago. Picture her father coming and toasting the bride. And here's what a definition of a good compost heap takes. A good compost heap takes some thought and restraint to make. Some things should be excluded from it. The sticks and stones of prejudice and intolerance. The rusty nails and the broken bottles of preconceived ideas and social conventions. It is what you make of it that matters. It is your marriage. And there's more to the article than that, but I'm going to stop there. But
Thank you.
no, I you know, so you can imagine the father of a bride, and she's going, oh my God, what is Dad saying? You know, holy shit. You know, this can't be. This can't be.
The first time I heard that word out loud.
Our guests have grown quiet. My father was eloquent. The rise and fall of his voice, gentle and expressive. Put into your marriage your willingness to listen, your ability to admit your mistakes, your abiding faith that your partner is in every sense your partner in the making of this compost heap. Put into your disappointments as well as your joys, your frustrations, as well as your triumphs. For with these included, the dull matters of everyday living can, in the course of time, become something quite unique to both of you, for time and patience are needed. Do not neglect them. I was going to make a comment earlier about the sticks and stones. I'm still pulling out sticks and stones after 50 years of being with my wife, Dawn, so it's never ending, by the way. But I also thought, and it's a nice article, and I'll copy it. I don't know how to distribute it, but I will. But I also thought of our fellow councilors and perhaps Jeff in particular, when we want marriage is like a compost heap. So here he is, Jeff, trying to marry the other two units. And so why the heck not?
Oh my dear, is that where that was going?
Wasn't sure where that was going.
No, but it's Valentine's Day. It's been so serious, so emotional, and I
I
just.
love you.
By the time he's done, it's going to be Easter.
It's Valentine's Day and I'm spending it with you.
Yeah, I agree, Wade. It's a good thing we all love each other.
So are we done?
Oh, gosh.
Not yet.
Thank you. We got one more. Okay, Councillor Hood, can you read it fast? No, we're just kidding. Go
I'm going to
ahead.
take you to another place, actually. I'm going to deal with some of the words that were in your thing, Jim, the prejudice and things like that still exist in our society, but it existed probably much more strongly. In 1914, World War I broke out, and hundreds of thousands of Canadian soldiers enlisted in that war. 10 of them were from Yarmouth County. They were Private Freeman Leslie Berry, Private Gordon Berry, Private John Brown, Private Bowman Crawford, Private Percy Foreman Fenton, Private Charles Nathan Smith, Private Arthur Stevens, Private John William Stevens, Private Leslie Hiram Stevens, and Private Austin Wilson. I believe that most, if not all, of the black families in Yarmouth and Greenville and Yarmouth County here have relatives or are relatives of one or more of these men. Not all, but many of them. Those men enlisted in what was called the No. 2 Construction Battalion. This is African Heritage Month in Nova Scotia. The No. 2 Construction Battalion eventually comprised just shy of 700 black men. When they were first formed in 1914, they were refused, after enlisting voluntarily, a service in the overseas. There was rampant racial discrimination, even in Parliament, by members of Parliament, the Minister of Justice. The entire Canadian officer corps refused to serve with them. But there were white men eventually of goodwill who came forward. And one of those is our grandfather, a white man who served with the No. 2 Construction Battalion. His name was Samuel Clifford Hood, and he is my namesake. Our family has been proud of his service with that battalion. Some of the other, so I'm a grandson, as is Chuck Smith, a grandson of members of the battalion. Other members of there are two other white grandsons alive in Nova Scotia. Dr. Kempton Hayes and another gentleman by the name of Sandy McLean. And we have been in contact. So about 10 years ago, there was a medal that went up for auction that had been earned by one of the members of the battalion. And the people at the Black Cultural Center in Dartmouth, Cherrybrook, did not have sufficient funds to meet the high bid of some $4,000 or $5,000. I'll tell you how things used to go around here. So somebody was in contact with Frank Anderson and Richard. They got in contact with myself, and in the course of 2 days, we raised $4,500 to buy the medal at auction. This was met with a large amount of acceptance by the black community, and I was tasked by the mayor, Charles Crosby, to represent Yarmouth and the Southwest Regional Development Authority, who had put the funds together, some of it from their money and some from donated money. At the annual meeting of the Number 2 Association at Pictou, which is where they were based before they were shipped overseas. They were not able to go overseas until 1917. So they were recruited, volunteered, and because of racial prejudice, they were refused the proper respect that other white folk of both sexes who served in the Canadian Armed Forces were given. Eventually they went and they served with honor in France. And this whole Number 2 Construction Battalion affair that goes on in Pictou every year, it's an annual event, is a remarkable, I've gone to 4 now. And so I've worked with this as part of my journey to go from my own prejudicial feelings that I grew up with in the society I was part of, and try to find a path forward for myself. It's been a journey, and that's why I bring this forward tonight. This is African Heritage Month. Don has helped me with this, and I've had the assistance of George Borden, who is very active in promoting this black battalion and the recognition that they deserve. And with that, I had given earlier notice of motion, and I hereby move the following motion. Whereas February is African Heritage Month in Nova Scotia, and whereas Yarmouth and Greenville residents of African heritage, as well as many others from Canada, USA, and the British West Indies, were recruited to the Canadian Army for service in the Canadian Expeditionary Forces in World War I. Subsequent to 2 years, 1914-16, of enlistment refusal. In other words, they were refused service. And whereas because of endemic and prevailing racist discrimination in all white Canada military leadership, compounded by like attitude of regional and local commanding officers, supported by the Parliament of Canada, the men were not granted the opportunity to give service they volunteered for to serve their country in World War I, alongside and with the white men and women who served free of discrimination. Now therefore be it resolved that the Prime Minister, on behalf of the people of Canada and the leadership of the Canadian military, formally and publicly apologize to all African Canadians, especially descendants of World War II Black Construction Battalion, for the shameful and discriminate treatment of those young male Negroes who voluntarily enlisted for duty at the outset of hostilities in 1914. And I ask Council to approve this as a resolution and to authorize Her Worship to address a copy of this resolution to our Member of Parliament, Colin Fraser, and to our MLA, Zach Churchill.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Questions called? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
Okay.
Unanimous. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to give you
All
that
those in
back,
favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
And then we can get
Motion
it back
carried.
because I have a little file.
Date of next meeting? March 14th. Motion to adjourn.
Same day as